like, and subscribe.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thanks, Minister, for coming before this committee. I'm going to ask you the same questions I asked every witness that have appeared before this committee. A couple of foundational questions, I think. First, do you believe that access to information, and specifically an ATIP system, is essential in a well-functioning democracy?
Yes.
Do you believe that Canada meets the standard that would ensure that that is in fact the case?
I believe we have updated the legislation 4 years ago, and we are improving the system, and it continues to be necessary that we improve it.
There's rarely do witnesses agree on something, but Madam Minister, it's interesting because virtually every witness that appeared before this committee answered no to the second question. So it's concerning that we have a massive disparity, I think, of understanding, and specifically your report. And I guess I appreciate the fact that you said you identified challenges without providing any solutions. Madam Minister, it's been 8 years, and along with your predecessors in this portfolio, Canada's access to information system is struggling, it's failing, and it's causing a loss of confidence in our democratic institutions. So, Madam Speaker, Mr. Chair, through you, do you specifically when it comes to the retention of staff, that's a huge issue. You mentioned some metrics that you're doing to help recruit staff to fill those roles. Can you tell me how many staff are working in the ATIP system today?
Well, first, thank you for laying out many of the things that we have been looking into. As we did a review, we made many conclusions, and those conclusions demonstrated that we need to make sure that we have a digital system that will support how we treat ETHI requests. Also, we've been working very hard on focusing on getting staff trained, trying to find more staff. So we have a pool of 150 potential candidates that could come and work with us to make sure that they're ready to confront the load that we have currently.
So you didn't specifically answer my question. Are there more ATIP officers today versus when you took over the portfolio, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. The use of consultants specifically, are there more or fewer consultants being used across the ATIP system in government today than when you took office?
Fewer.
Fewer. Can you identify what the cost of those consultants is today versus when you took over?
I can tell you that we have a very important number of staff across the departments that are working very hard, and we're complementing the work with a few consultants to make sure that we get the job done.
A former ATIP officer had referenced to me the fact that when the Liberals took office, they removed many of the performance metrics that were associated with what they felt was very important to be able to effectively accomplish their tasks. Those performance metrics and some of the ways that they were able to track the ATIPs, when those were removed, it caused some chaos and confusion within the ATIP systems of a number of departments. I'm wondering if you could comment on that.
I can comment on the fact that we have, in the last year, answered to about 70.7% of the requests as taking out IRCC, because that represents about 80% of the requests, so we don't put it in that metric. And we know that we have a lot of work to do to make sure that we increase the numbers that we receive. And everyone knows that we have received an increased amount of requests and are trying to deal with the backlog, explaining why we're putting in administrative support, such as digital, and Catherine with my team could explain what exactly we're doing. And we're also making sure that staff can have the necessary tools to be able to process them.
So it seems to me that there's, again, a disparity of understanding from what you're saying today versus what's happening on the ground. To go back to the consultants issue, I'm just curious, could you provide us with a number as to how much, because I've tried to get this information from other sources, wondering if you could provide a number as to how much, maybe over the last 3 or so years, has been spent on ATIP contracts to outside consultants?
I can tell you that I don't have that number with me today, but it's something that we could provide. The most important thing right now is to know that we have lesser consultants than we did 10 years ago, and we are working on making sure that they complement the work that is being done by departments. I don't know if my team want to answer with.
So just because time is short, so you're confirming that you will provide that information. Could you also provide who received those contracts?
I guess so. It should be part of something that we could provide.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister. Cabinet confidences are a massive frustration across the board, it seems. Can you, in about 30 seconds you have left, talk about how, if they're to ensure that cabinet confidences is managed well within the ATIP system? Because right now we're seeing a whole host of witnesses say that seems to be a roadblock to getting information.
Well, the most important thing is we need to make sure, and I think the Supreme Court had ruled on the fact that it's important that Cabinet has a way of being able to express freely during the meetings. Therefore, that's why Cabinet confidence is important to keep. But there is a balance in where in the last legislation, there was a proactive disclosure, thank you, of cabinet documents, and we are providing briefing notes and those type of documents.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. Madam Minister, have you ever filed an access to information request?
No.
So I filed a number, and 60% closed in 30 days is a pipe dream compared to my experience, just to give you some context. Bill C-58, I'm glad you brought it up. However, when hearing from witnesses, they had a very different experience, although, and in fact outlined quite a few times how a few disclosures and reduced fees seem to be a way to hide, for the government to hide behind increased secrecy in their actions. So in light of all of that, and we've heard a lot of criticisms of C-58, why is the criticisms from C-58, which your government passed a number of years ago, not included in your report?
Well, the important thing is we did actually bring legislation after 30 years of this law have not been looked at, and I believe that we also gave the Information Commissioner order-making power. We also, as I said, eliminated the fees beyond a $5 application, and also put into law a system of proactive disclosure of information from Minister's Office, port authorities, and other government institutions. And we will continue that work to make sure that we provide a robust, or I should say an open, transparent system.
Thanks, Minister, but I think the point stands that the experience of many people who have used the system is certainly not what you're describing here today. I'd like to hand my time over to Mr. Barrett. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Somebody else is
Madam Minister. The Information Commissioner told this committee that your report was a summary of problems that are well known and have been identified for years. On what date will you present a list of solutions to those problems? And on what date will you have affected the completion of those recommendations?
I am comfortable to say that we will this year, later this year, be able to present the latest work that we have been doing, and also present a action plan to show how we can make progress on this.
Could you tell us in which quarter of this year you will provide us that?
I will tell you that I won't make any promises, but I will deliver this year.